Greetings, YouTube. Happy Monday. You know, about once every 3 months, I change up my mastery setup, usually for a specific purpose. In this case, I will finally be jumping into Act 6 tomorrow. It is my spring break, and I am mostly using this quote-unquote holiday week to catch up on emails and letters of recommendation, because let me tell you, your boy can write a mean letter of recommendation for his students to get the internship or job of their choice. So as I tell my students always, you have me once, you have me for life. So with that being said, I'm still working during my spring break, but at the same time, I thought tomorrow I'd take a couple hours out of my schedule to see how much of Act 6, Chapter 1 I can knock out. I'm not sure yet if I will stream it or not. I'm kind of on the fence because it's kind of nice, to be honest, to be able to not only get wrecked on my couch, but to also, have the ability to watch TV while I'm getting wrecked. So, can't do that when I'm trying to answer questions. But needless to say, my mastery setup has changed, hence the purpose and title of this video, to maximize not getting wrecked, especially on certain nodes where I anticipate taking quite a bit of block damage, which Act 6, Chapter 1 seems to specialize on, especially with certain global nodes. So, I do want to start out this video by showing you what the PI looks like on my champions, because even with Act 6 jumping in tomorrow, I still am doing my normal arena grind this week for specifically the 5-star featured arena, maximizing all milestones, 3-star featured arena, and if I have time, though this week I probably won't, even the 4-star featured arena. I also feel like this is a lucky video because I have over 7,000 units, which every one of those units will hopefully go toward the rank 4 to 5 5-star rank up gem packages. I have been saving over $200 worth of gift cards to cash in for additional units when I hopefully don't have to drain my units currently in order to get that bundle. So let's jump in and show you my mastery setup. I'll also be sending this link out to everybody who just casually sends me a message online and says, "Prof, send me your mastery." I'm like, I don't have time to do that, but there's a video out there, and this will be that video. So I want you to know off the top that I love this mastery setup because I do think it is one of the best, and for me, the best, and I have tried many in terms of questing, Alliance Quest, Alliance War, Story Quests, Monthly Quests, and high arena prestige without sacrificing any recoil damage with Suicide Masteries, because technically the only mastery in my Suicide Mastery tree is Glass Cannon, which several people have messaged me asking in the past week. Also, Prof, how does my mastery setup look? And I always start with Glass Cannon. I think it's just one of those masteries that, you know, the higher up you get into content, especially things like Variant and Labyrinth of Legends, that if you get hit, you're probably going to be knocked out anyway. So why would you worry about maximizing 7.2% health when you know that health's going to go bye-bye anyway, even in something like Alliance War, when you can increase your attack? Because the goal when you become really good at this game is just never to be hit. If you're never hit, you don't have to worry about your health, especially if you have awesome regen champs. But yeah, I am not a Suicide Mastery fan. That's why I have actually put minimal units into the tree. I know for champs like Corvus Glaive and Omega Red, they are highly encouraged, if not required in some cases, but I don't have an Omega Red, and I still run my Corvus without Suicides, just with synergy teams. So that is my thoughts on Glass Cannon. It is a luxury, but something that I highly recommend that you invest your units in if you have them. Now, the bottom right, speaking of luxury, I have had all 3 of these maxed out for over a year, and even though I still go back and forth as to whether or not I regret taking my 5-star Void to rank 5, there are certain matchups where just having that extra health has been really beneficial. You will not see the damage output at all from rank 4 to rank 5 that you will in Void that I had in all 3 of my previous rank 5s, Hyperion, Blade, and then I guess the rank 5 after Stark Spidey. Those all 3 had tremendous jumps in attack and damage output from rank 4 to rank 5. Void, you just get more health, and Void's like a fine wine, as I always like to say. Just give him a little bit more age, and he becomes even better. So, with that being said, I have maxed out Despair mainly for Void, and that has really worked well, particularly over time. Certainly the MVP for things like the Deadpool limited time event. Deep Wounds is my favorite mastery in the game. Yes, there are certain times, like the past Alliance War seasons a few seasons ago, where they had that global node where you couldn't cause bleed damage, but in general, there are so many amazing bleed damage champs. And I'm going to do a separate video on this week. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but my latest rank 4 is maybe my favorite rank 4 I've done in months, and that is my Awakened 5-star X23. She is amazing in Alliance Quest, in Alliance War, and of course I ranked her up to pair her with my Corvus Glaive to get that extra glaive charge against mutants. And I'm doing 300 to 600 bleed per tick with X23, and then I'm never ever using any specials because I am using the full advantage of my triple power meter to get the maximum regeneration when I do take hits. X23 is made for Deep Wounds, and really one of those champs that's also made for Suicide Masteries if I ever went for those, since I don't use specials. But at the same time, it's just not worth it to me at this point, especially having to spin the units to toggle back and forth between when you're not in Alliance War and when you are in Alliance War. And if you screw up and you don't forget to change those out, you're really screwing your Alliance War over, because that recoil damage on defense will make your champs die by themselves, and you'll just lose really important fights, especially in the higher tiers. So, Deep Wounds is amazing. Assassin, I go back and forth. I've always kept mine at 5 out of 5 because it gives me comfort to know once I get the enemy, especially like a final Kingpin boss in Alliance Quest, or maybe a mini boss in Alliance War, once they get to around 18% health. And one of the best things Kabam has done in the past couple of years is put that health meter up to give us an idea of how much the percentage of health is left on the opponent. But when I get to 18%, I just feel better. Even if there isn't a tremendous difference between Assassin from rank 4 to rank 5 or rank 3 to rank 5, it's still something that I very much value having maxed out. So extremely expensive masteries on the right side of this offensive tree, but well worth every unit in my book. And then the only others that I have maxed out on this, you have Precision, you have Cruelty, and you have Courage. Now, I have been told that by some that Pierce is broken. I don't know if that's true, but that's why Pierce is not maxed out. And basically, I had one mastery point left over when I reset my masteries for Act 6, and I thought to myself, I can either put the second of Pierce, or when we go into defense, I ended up putting it on Salve, which I've been told is also a broken mastery. But even if they're both broken, Salve gives you a slightly higher tick in prestige, and so I figured why not have my PI be a little bit higher for my champs for the arena, even if both are essentially broken. But with that being said, my defensive tree is very minimal, 11. It's the least amount of points of offense, defense, and I still call it utilities, even though they switched it to proficiencies for whatever reason. I see a lot of people who ask me this question, Prof, what about willpower? If willpower did not have that really annoying requirement for 15 points in defense to even start putting points in it, I would consider it. But willpower was nerfed over a year ago now, and it's not the same mastery that it was. Champs like Hulkbuster and even Joe Fix, it used to be OP when they stacked that region, but then when they took that away, they became trash. So yeah, willpower still is valuable, and I can see for newer players who maybe aren't the best at parrying or using dexterity why willpower would come in handy. But in general, as I said at the beginning of this mastery setup, you don't want to get hit when you get into all those fights. You want to take 0 hits, maybe some block damage, but that's it. And so when it comes to willpower, I just don't see why you would sacrifice all the important points of the utilities or the offensive mastery trees by putting them on defense. Now, I did have, if you saw my previous video, one in perfect block and one in stand your ground. Now, my question for the community, because I've seen it about a 50-50 split. I've seen some who do block proficiency 4 out of 4, and then I've seen some do the opposite. They do 1 in block proficiency, and then they do the 4 in perfect block. I feel like the chances are block proficiency is way better than perfect block, because perfect block, of course, just deals with having the chance to perform a perfect block, which even maxed out is a really low percentage chance, but some people swear by this, and it's probably a minimal part of the community, but it's worth asking. I think overall more people do though, have on defense the block proficiency maxed out. It just seems like a safer choice for more of a guaranteed save and damage when you're blocking. Sounded kind of complicated, but I had to throw that in because a couple people have reached out to me and been like, Prof, you're an idiot. It's funny when people reach out to you. They're not like, hey, man, I love your channel. Just a quick thing. Like, no one is ever, like, polite. They're just like, man, I don't care if you block me. You're an idiot, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of amusing, I guess. But proficiencies. This, I have remained maxed out in 4 out of 6 of the areas. Thankfully, when they changed dexterity, they still didn't have it be where you had to put 2 or 3 points in for it to work, and so I've kept it at 1, and then I've also kept limber at 1, though if you want to be a pain in Alliance War, especially with a champion like Rogue, you'll max out your limber and your defense will be pretty good. But I haven't really worried about that because I think I'm more of an attacker myself, and Alliance War defense is only about a fifth of the game. And so I have maxed out Stupefy, Petrify, and Pacify, along with, of course, the most important proficiency, and that is Parry, which Kabam, another positive to give them credit for. They switched it up, and you could start putting points into Parry as your first mastery of this tree a while back, and I think that's been really beneficial. People ask me all the time, Prof, why aren't you putting your mastery points in Mystic Dispersion? While it still is a fine mastery for attack, I just don't use that many Mystic Champs, even though I just ranked Symbiote Supreme to rank 4 partially for this week's challenge for the Intel week. I just don't use Mystic Champs that much, and even though I use Magic and Ghost Rider, I'm fine actually using them as such without worrying about that extra power boost from Mystic Dispersion. But I'm sure there are going to be people, like any mastery discussion, who say, Prof, you need to take out a couple points with this and put it in this. And so I am always open, as long as it's constructive and not just frankly rude, for your feedback, because we have so many different mastery setups, and a couple of tweaks can make a huge difference. So it has been requested to put out my Act 6. It's hard for me to say it. I always say Act 6 mastery setup. So there you have it, YouTube. For what it's worth, the prestige of my champions is still very high, and yet I still feel like I cover the ground on defense, offense, and utility/proficiency to be ready to take on Act 6 tomorrow. So I hope this helps all of you out there who are looking to invest certain units. As always, I believe putting your units into masteries, even with the Cavalier Crystals, drop rates be amazing. I still think this is the best guaranteed use for your units because you will see the rewards pay off in all aspects of the game, and you don't have to worry about an RNG casino-like gamble and a crystal. You just get the bonus immediately for all of your champions. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a great week.